Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, January the 25th, and you are live with Bob Phibbs, the retail doc. So, do me a favor. Let me know where you are joining me from around the world. I know we have people here from all over the world. And today's topic is how to prevent burnout. Now, I was talking to a potential customer the other day, and they were giving me all the excuses why they couldn't take action and buy Sales RX. So it was all about how frustrated they were, and those employees weren't staying around. She said, they don't even stay around long enough for me to train. And I'm thinking, well, don't you start training from day one unless they're not showing up for the day? But the frustrations were so great. And I think, first off, just to understand burnout, what is it? It is this feeling of kind of exhaustion, like you're over it, like you no longer like your job. Now, you could be a business owner or you could be a manager, and this happens with employees too, right? Hey, Alexandria, I'm glad you're here this morning from York. And so, what are some of the symptoms? Well, depressed. You have less pride in your work. It's easier just to slough things off, right? You're frustrated with your vendors and with your employees and those darn customers. And you find yourself in this pattern of saying how awful the day is. Now, we all have those days, right? Like there's disappointments, we get that, things happen. And then, of course, your personal life is there as well. But I think it comes down to focusing on all the problems. It was. You remember Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore was, or Schleprock? I think with the Flintstones, they were that personality that nothing went right, and everybody just felt like they were sucking the energy out of them. I call them an energy vampire. Well, unfortunately, sometimes that can be us. So, what would you add about what a burnout feels like? Some of you have been there, I'm sure. Type in, what does it feel like? Oh, nice, Kathy. Coffee in the dock. Perfect combination. I love that. So, what are some of the symptoms that you've seen in your employees or your managers or yourself? You don't have to identify which one. I don't know what you would put in there. I have a odd comment in there. We'll remove. I can't do that while I'm live, but I think the challenge is that it's easier to say the grass is greener somewhere else, right? I think that's kind of the challenge that I spoke in Boston a few years ago, and I was speaking to lawyers, and these were, I think these were all dealing with traffic violations. And it must have been a room of 30 lawyers. And we spent the day talking about sales training and how to, build rapport with people you don't know and all that. And several of them came up at the break and said, I just don't like my customers. I see the same people over and over again, and I'm stuck in doing the same thing every day. Yeah, exactly, Cindy. Glass half empty. Always go to the negative first. And they were really trying to figure out, what do we do? And I said, well, everyone has that moment where if you've been doing it a while, it's no longer fun. That's why I think so many people say, oh, I'm going to open a restaurant. Have you ever opened a restaurant? No, but I think it'd be fun. Restaurant's a lot of work. I can tell you that if you didn't like, or I'll open a bar. Like, really? So you want to be there till 4 in the morning with people you don't know? Oh, and I'll hire someone to do it. Yeah, that sounds great, but that doesn't work that way. Have you worked in a bar before? No, but I think it'd be fun. You'd be like Cheers. Like that was a TV show. And so I think that that idea that somewhere else is going to be better than here makes it easy. Joe, more than one Monday in a week. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so, some of the basics to get over burnout, I've always found is you've got to get more sleep. I think some of us go through and we end our day with our phone at 11 o'clock at night. And what I've started doing on mine, I have an iPhone, not to brag, but just they have a setting that says at 7 o'clock is when my day ends. So I don't get messages and it doesn't start again until 6 a.m. Now I'm up till 9 or 10 at night and I wake up at 5 in the morning, but my phone isn't annoying me and getting me to that. So that would be one thing I would suggest. The other one is to exercise more because frankly, we always think that when I feel like it, I'll go to the gym, or when I feel like it, I'll go for a walk or a run or something. And it's just the opposite. The body, you need to move the body before the attitude changes. So just a simple thing of, one of the things I used to do when I was working in Western wear That's a long story, a long time ago. But you have that like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and everything kind of was like, you had carbs for lunch, and just kind of like this. And I would shoot imaginary basketball hoops in the stock room because I wanted to get my heart going. I wanted to be able to realize that I need to get my attitude up. And the way I do that is I get my body to move. So all of that. Hey, Alex, glad you're here this morning. David, glad you're here this morning from Wilmington, North Carolina. So I think that's part of it. And then don't reach for the sugar. I drink a lot of iced tea, and I used to drink it with sugar in there, and it's got a certain amount of pep to it. But frankly, that's really not it. The real key to getting over burnout, I think, is finding hope, and hope comes from learning something. That's kind of the problem when I deal with people who are coming into, they either want me as a consultant or they want me to do sales training. And they have those people who we call seasoned veterans. They've been doing this for a long time. And it's like, I know how the game works. I just ask them what their budget is. And then I give them the options, and they either like it or they don't. Nothing I can do about it. You're like, wow, okay. So there's nothing new in the world. No, I know how the stuff's put together. And even though it may not be that gruff, that attitude that all there is to learn, I've learned it, is deadly in your personal life, and it's deadly in your professional life as well, I think. So, one of the things that I always think about is what's something new that I can learn. It doesn't necessarily have to be about business, doesn't have to necessarily be about in my personal life, but just that one thing, being curious, what's one thing that I could learn about this, whatever that's going to be. Sometimes about learning about yourself, sometimes about learning about somebody else, but there could be sometimes you pick up, oh, I'm going to learn something different to do with my camera, whatever that is. But the one thing that I have, I've been talking about it this whole week is training, because we have the club, which starts this Friday. And I want to tell you about two things that I want to make you aware of in a minute. But, uh, I have a client who uses, I guess a golf pro has said it for a long time. The more I train, the luckier I become. And I love that idea that luck happens from training, not from just being lucky. And so when you're thinking about that, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you being here today too. So there's two things that I wanted to make you aware of in my little bit of time with you today. One is that tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm holding a free webinar on creating your roadmap for 2022. I'm going to detail some strategies and tips I think you can use for creating a great 2022. When I'm done with this broadcast, I will put it in the comments so you could just go there and register. Doesn't cost you anything. And if you can't make it, then you can watch the video. But you and I both know if it's not enough time for you to make it live, you rarely are going to watch it on the replay. But that's there if that's an opportunity for you. So again, I'll post that in the link below. So that's tomorrow. And then SalesRx is now open as the club. This Friday is our first meeting, where if you just join SalesRx, just go to salesrx.com and you can sign up, get your crew started on training. We train the managers first for 3 weeks. And then you have a kickoff meeting, and then the associates move at a much slower rate. It takes about 4 or 5 months. And sometimes people say to me, oh, well, why do my managers have to learn it? Well, how are they going to enforce it? How are you going to know what it's supposed to look like? Well, I don't need training. They do. So that idea that there's nothing new that you would need to learn and we just want to get it over with. Well, that's going to be some work you got to do on yourself. If you're approaching burnout, you've already decided it's not worth it putting money into warm bodies. Like that woman that told me, oh, they don't stay long enough around for me to train them. Well, you start training from the moment somebody comes in the door. So each week, starting this Friday for 4 weeks, you'll get a live event with me and all the other people that are in the club to get your questions answered. We're going to talk about how do you build a culture of accountability this Friday, because that's probably the number one thing I see in retailers. I just went to Soho in New York, walked around some of the most beautiful stores, and yet we had employees who were afraid to talk to anyone with their hands behind their backs. I call it felon pose, waiting for someone to come up and talk to them. And that's fine, but that's warm body syndrome. And that's not going to make you money, because at the end of the day, someone walks in the door, they want to connect with somebody on a human level. And some great brands are doing it. I visited Ready. I'll talk about that in a blog post, be in the newsletter this week. But the training there was great. The products were great, was new and different. And my only regret was I didn't have a dog. So there you go. But these extra 4 sessions would be $1,000. We're just throwing it in for free. You just join SalesRx and you're in. And what that does is provide a deeper level of understanding for you, but it also has me to help hold you accountable, because I think the problem with burnout is we don't hold ourselves accountable, and we just let things kind of slip, and then it gets overwhelming and it feels like nothing is going right. And I just want you to get back up on the horse and grab the reins or jump in the front seat of your car and drive the car. A lot of us, after the pandemic, we've been beaten down. There's no two ways about it. It's a new thing here or that, and it becomes hard to focus. Well, the one place to focus is on you. So get some more rest, go through and make sure that you're eating right, but then commit. And I'll talk about this tomorrow on the webinar, which again is free. I'll have the link down below. But some of the tips that you can do to start that idea of taking control of your destiny. Because the one thing that I have noticed in all of my years as a retail doctor is my job is to help give you hope that there's something else. That's why religion exists. That's why a lot of people do a lot of things, right? That's why you get married, you go to college, you have kids. You're basing it on hope. And your customers are coming into your stores with hope. They're going to get the guy, the girl, they just moved to a new area, whatever it's going to be, they're hopeful. If you don't meet them with that same hope and add to it, I think that you squander the interest that they've got, which right now is to come out and be social and go into a brick and mortar store. Even in the pandemic last year, 80% of sales were still done in a brick and mortar store. That's huge. And even though the news came out, oh, sales dropped. Yeah, that was seasonally adjusted. Most retailers never look at that. We came through a banner holiday season. And also, we lost 4 million workers. What are you going to do to replace that? Well, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow at the webinar. And then more importantly, in the club, we're going to be talking about that each week for 4 weeks. So I hope you'll join me and then use these tips for you to go through and not allow yourself to be burned out and not allow yourself to get into that negative uh, uh, Nancy or negative, what's the guy's name? Ned, where you just become that energy vampire and nothing goes right. And then you just spread that misery to everyone you meet. The time to change that is now. We're in January. Time to be thinking about new things. Winter is a third of the way over. So if you're in the Northeast, hey, we're one third of the way there. But inside, you've got to decide, is today the day you stop settling for feeling downtrodden and frustrated and depressed? And if you could just take one action, what would it be? Well, you could certainly join me tomorrow at the webinar. So take that one action. I'll have the link down below. And as always, I appreciate your comments. So even if you're watching this on replay, I will reply to them as well. So thanks for joining me today. And let's make today, Tuesday, January 25th, a great day. I'm Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. Thanks for joining me.